Hey there guys, this is me, Malorian, and this is going to be a video on why you should not be trying to play to win. As we're getting into the new year, this is what a lot of people are talking about and what they want to do. You know, this year, this is what I'm going to be doing to try and win this many games, to win this many tournaments, to try and win this convention. And I think it's a really backwards way to look at things and something that can be very harmful to your hobby in general. And so I'm going to kind of cover why. Now, a lot of people when they're going to the games, like I said, they're going into it with the goal to win, and in and of itself, that's actually not that bad of a thing, right? This is a competitive game. Really, the goal of a competitive game is to win, right, Malorian? Like, is this the end of the video? Should I be stopping it right now? Well, the problem is that when you focus on just that end result and that end goal, you're missing everything else that is so critical to get you to that point. So let's say, for example, I go to a tournament and I'm saying, you know what? I'm going to win. That's what I'm going to do, is I'm going to win. I'm going to go into this, I'm going to win. And I go into it, and it turns out I don't win the whole thing. I don't take first. So all I can do is walk away from that and just say like, oh, that's a failure. I didn't do it. I didn't win that event. I went in to win, and I didn't win. And as you can see, that does so many bad things. First of all, it just brings you down, right? You go into that and all you're thinking now is like, no, I just failed. I lost. No, I just lost. That's it. And the second big part of that too is it doesn't really address why. It doesn't address at all what led to you losing, what were the big steps into it. And I think that's the big thing then, is because if you're just focusing at that final goal, you're not really keying into everything that's going to be building up towards that. So maybe what I should be doing then is telling you what I think you should be trying to do. I think you should be not trying to play to win. I think you should be trying to play to improve. Whenever you're going into a game, of course the end goal should be to try and win, but you need to be breaking down the things before it. Simple things like, okay, my goal going into this, and one of the things I'm going to focus on, is I want all my deployments to be 2 minutes or less. My goal is going to be so that at the end of turn 1, I'm going to be just using up, 5 minutes of my clock or less. I'm going to be really focusing on this so that when I have the rest of my game, now I have 5 turns with now 55 minutes as opposed to maybe taking too long and then it goes really past that. That's something where I can really focus on and make improvements. Or maybe something I'm going to be doing and focusing on is I'm not going to be putting my caster into a spot where it can be assassinated easily. I'm going to make sure that at the start of every single of my turns, and when I'm deciding where I'm going to be putting my caster, I'm going to find out what all the potential threats are to my caster, and I'm going to be using distance or models in the way or cover and terrain to try and keep my caster as safe as possible every single time. That's going to be my goal. And again, that's something you can look on, focus on, and improve as far as you go. And you can see if you go in with that mentality, that's something where you can actually look at the end of an event and really say like, oh yeah, in game 1 I did this, in game 2 I did that, or maybe it's around positioning, or maybe it's around your trade ups and heavies, or maybe. And that's the thing is that when you want to win a game, the ability to win a game is not really just a yes or a no. It's so many compartments within that. You have to be good at this part of the game and this and this and this. And all those really come together to eventually get you the win. And if you're not focusing on all those small steps that all come together to get you that win, again, the two big things. First of all, you're not going to be catching and you're not going to be improving because you're not assessing those smaller steps, which are going to be leading you there. And the second thing is that you're just going to be bringing yourself down. And I think I want to go and I want to push this a little bit more on that side because I think a lot of people don't realize that your odds of winning aren't always even completely within your sphere of influence. If I want to go into a tournament and I decide I'm going to win, that's it, I'm coming in, I'm going to win this thing. Well, the problem is that there's a lot of people going into the tournament with exactly that same mentality. And there's a lot of good players out there. And you have to realize that sometimes other good players are going to win. That's just kind of the way it goes. And the reason for that is because, well, let's face it, you're not the messiah when it comes to War Machine. There's many good players who are all enjoying this, and you're all going to be up there in that winner circle, and just like sometimes this person gets ahead, sometimes this person gets ahead. But even past that, this is also a game of dice, and luck is involved. Even as far as the pairings, when I go and I decide, it's like, okay, I can cover all these different matchups, but okay, I don't have anything for this one caster, but that's fine, that's fine. Nobody in the meta plays it. And then you go to it in your very first game, guess what? Somebody surprised you with your kryptonite, and you go down and you lose that game. Or maybe it's something during the game where it's like, okay, this play right now, which is critical to win the game, is a 70%er. Didn't work, now I'm going to lose this game instead. So if we would have played this game 10 times, I would have won 7 of them, but hey, this is one of those 3 where I lost. A lot of people who go through big conventions where you have to win 6 games or sometimes even more to win these things, they always say at the end that a big part of them getting to that win that they have to address and have to admit is luck, right? The luck in who you're going to face, the luck in, how you roll those dice. This is a very, very tactical game, and there's so much more into this that goes into it that's, skill and player experience, but there is still that piece of luck, and you have to accept that. And again, once you go into that, then, if I go to a tournament and I'm saying I'm going to win, it's really just being naive and just how unlikely that is. I mean, if you just go into it and you decide that everybody in that tournament is of equal skill, well, if it's going to be even a small 16-person tournament, well, then really you should only have a 1 in 16 odds of winning it. Now, of course, the people that are the top players are going to be probably not everyone, but again, depending on what meta you're in, maybe that's half the people, maybe that's a third of the people. The number of people in that event where if they won, you wouldn't be like, what? That doesn't make any sense. Take that, and I mean, that's really your base odds of kind of winning that event. That's something that's, more realistic when you're looking at it, right? If I'm going to a tournament of, again, this is a small tournament of 16 people, and I look through the list and there's 8 people that if they won, I wouldn't be surprised. Well, then I have assuming I'm one of those 8, I have a 1 in 8 chance, just base odds, nothing else being involved, of winning that event. So you have to realize that assuming that you're not like the big shark in a small pond, those odds are low. And I think even though I'm kind of like really pushing that simple math, it's really, really important to get that in your head, to get that final goal, that big, ultimate goal of winning everything, more out of your head and more focusing on, I need to go into this to improve. And maybe that improvement is winning a few more games. I think that's okay, right? If you're going into it and you're normally a 1 in 3 player, and my goal is to win 2 of those games, so I want to be a 2 in 2 player, I think that's very reasonable. And there's, of course, a lot more things underneath that you still want to break that down. But that's something where you're taking one more step up, and I think that's within your sphere of influence. But even then, you need to break it down and look everything down below, where I want to make sure I'm always dropping the right list. I always want to be making sure I'm understanding everything in my opponent's list before I pick what list I'm going to be doing. I'm going to make sure that whenever I have the choice of initiative, I am analyzing and making sure I'm picking what side of the board is correct, or if I should be going first. And again, 100 different things that you should be assessing that's going to be deciding who wins the game. I think another big part of this too I want to talk about, because I did this years ago and it helps me so much, and yet I've definitely been hearing more and more about this here from different podcasts and people talking about it, where everybody wants to be recording their games. And they want to come back and say like, okay, this year I played 100 games, and of those 100 games, I won 70. Okay, I mean, that's something that I used to do way back in the day. I had a log, I'd say how many games I played and how many won, and I've shared this this idea in the past, but it was extremely destructive to my playing, because when I went to go do that, well, then every single loss was crippling, and I was actually trying to target weaker players, and I wasn't improving. This kind of goes back to my other video where I said you want to be targeting people of equal skill so that you can be improving. But again, if all you're doing is focusing on the win, you're not going to do that. You're going to be going and trying to focus and trying to find the weaker players rather than the stronger ones. And again, what did I say you should be focusing on? It's trying to improve. And if all I'm doing is clubbing baby seals, I'm not going to improve. That's not where I'm going to get done. So again, if you want to be doing this stuff, if you want to be keeping a track and a log of your games and say how many you won with, and even if you go the next step and say like, oh, these are the casters I used and they used, and this is what scenario, that is just very basic information that I think again will just lead you down to the goal of did you win or did you lose. I would break things down more so with those main things. You know, if this is the start of the year, and you're trying to plan out what is going to be my New Year's resolution and things I'm going to be focusing over 2019, think of base things like the caster one. I'm going to make sure that every turn I'm keeping my caster safe. I want to be very, very careful with my clock in the first whatever turns to allow later. I want to, and pick like 3 or 5 things. And then what you should do for those is that when you're keeping track of your games, sure, you can put whether you won or lost, but more importantly, for those 3 to 5 things, grade yourself on how well you think you did on those things. And on those things where you either graded high or low, you probably should have a comment saying why. On this one here, I rated myself low on my time management because when I got into turn 3, I was thinking about doing assassination, thought it all through, then realized it was impossible because of X, and then continued on after I lost 10 minutes off my clock. Something like that where you can go back and really do some meaningful analysis from it. If I go back and I say like, okay, when I went and I played Colgrima, I won 82% of the time. Okay, again, like that stat won't help you improve, but if you can go back and say like, okay, all the times when I played Colgrima and I lost, it was by assassination, or my clock was weak, or this, or this, or this. Those are now factors you can go and focus on and improve. So there you go, guys. Again, when you say it out first that you should not be gaming to win, it sounds counterproductive and not what we should be doing. But again, when you think about all those things I said, really focusing on trying to improve is the way you should go. So anyway, please, if you'd like to, put down below something that you'd like to go and focus on to trying to improve. I can always go down there and maybe give you some tips of what you might want to look at and maybe think about. But otherwise, we'll catch you later. Bye.